Okay, so you all talked about cold emails. So, how to write an effective cold email and so that it can catch the eye of a professor?
You'll have to mail in batches. I mailed about 50 to 60 professors every day. So the first step would be to find professors. Now there'll be two lists of professors. The first one, your dream professors, which you'll never get. The second one will be more approachable professors, which you feel you might get. So basically, even when you apply for university, you have like three lists: your dream school, your moderate, and your safe schools. So like that, you also maintain three lists. In those three lists, you mention the name of the professor, the email ID, their major research interests, PhD students under them, and if you have any interest in like whatever ongoing projects are going on in the lab. So this will help you in tweaking the draft email which Gagi mentioned. So there's going to be one draft email which will be broadcasted to each and every professor. Now, what that draft email needs to constitute of, you're basically a salesperson. You need to sell yourself and you need to mention your selling points very crisply, very precisely, but very politely. So the first point is to sell yourself. Now the second point is to prove that you are a good fit for the lab. And how do you prove that? By first mentioning your achievements, but also by mentioning that you're really interested in his or her lab's work. And you do that by either reading their papers or mentioning some idea that you have that could modify their project. And I know it's very difficult for 50 to 60 professors each day, but this is what you've signed up for. So you'll have to take that extra step because professors receive thousands of emails every day, and the chance of your mail getting read is bleak. So don't lose hope. You'll have to try a lot. So for SNBOS, I think I applied up to about 150 to 160 professors, and I just received responses back from 15 professors where 5 were automated and 5 were like, sorry, we had no position. And 5 were like, okay, I can probably give you an opportunity. And then when I emailed back, 3 of them, they did not respond. So I just had two options. So it is going to be like that, and it is going to be tough, but draft an email in such a way that the professor knows that you are curious, you are oriented towards research, you don't have need to have any publication. And in fact, I believe GPA does play a role in getting through scholarships and admissions, but I think professors personally do not uh, take GPA into account. They just want to see how inquisitive and curious you are as a person. So just try that. Although my resume shows my skills, but I would love to have an interview with you. I would love to talk about you regarding your projects. Don't say that you just want a research opportunity. That's why you're mailing. You show that you're really curious about the work. Just like Ashvi said, she just wanted to read and she got some good material back, and maybe that helped her get the PhD admission that she's got right now. So be curious, be inquisitive, sell your selling points, and do read about the professors lab. Just don't write that I'm very interested in your work, please take me as your intern. That is not going to help. You need to take that extra step. You need to go through their projects. You need to write either just one line will also do that. I found this and this paper really interesting, and I feel that this and this will help you improve this, and I feel that so and so could take this research into a different direction, and I would love to get your inputs on this, something along these lines, which will help show that you are inquisitive by nature. So that's one of the major points that I would like to elaborate on. And the second is, please don't lose hope. This is a very luck by chance feat, and it does not determine how worthy you are. It's just that you're not lucky. So just keep on trying hard and you will get through. The last point would be so to ensure that the email that you're sending to the professor is in their time zone. So if you send at 9 a.m. in your time zone, it might not be 9 a.m. at their time zone. So be wary of that, because usually the routine of almost each and every professor I know is that they wake up they have their coffee and breakfast, and at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. they sit on the laptop and they go through their mails. So the chances of your email getting read will be higher if you mail during these times. So I think now Gmail has an option of setting the time and date, so you can do that. But that is one way of increasing the chances of reaching your dream professor. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, ma'am. So Ayushi ma'am, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, so whatever Mansi said, I agree, and like this is what is done. However, for like in MSR particularly, I could just say like you can have already a handful of maybe 5 to 10 researchers who you would like to work with eventually. So getting to know about their work and reading some of their publication, and while mailing, if you write 2 3 lines on that, plus some lines about what you have done and how you are interested, that usually works. But it's again up, it's on them that if they click on it, yes, you are visible. Then if they have an opening, then definitely you can be contacted for further interview. Otherwise, I also have just one more addition to it for general cold email, uh, how it works. So you can to ease your work for finding maybe the work individual work for every professor. Maybe you should actually have a Twitter account. So in Twitter, if you follow these professors, like I saw in NSR, actually people had all this stuff, and they used to because there everyone applies for PhD after they get in. So I used to talk about with research fellows a lot. So those people basically they would have these Twitter accounts and uh, keep a note of whatever professors were there, and then they would keep a track of whatever work they had. So that would make your life a little bit easier, I would say, instead of going to other profiles. So one thing is that, and then second aspect for of this cold emailing is also, if by chance if your professor with whom you're working currently at your institute, let's say, if he could maybe help you bring to the limelight of other people
Yeah.
with whom you can do. So yeah, these are the two some tips for.
In fact, there's this funny story. So I had two recommenders at the time I applied to SN Bosch, and I was cold emailing each one of my dream professors, and surprisingly, like I did not get a response from the professor, but the professor actually mailed my recommenders that what do you think of the student, and
Okay.
I did not know about it. So Rajiv sir, who's like the director of Midas, he's like, did you mail this professor? And that made me think that you need to mention this to your recommenders that you're doing this, so that they at least treat them like the professor's emails as important and they respond back. So that's one important point.
Yeah.
So, Kashvi ma'am, your views on it?
Yeah, I guess they've covered it all. But like, I would say get mail track because it really helps. So there's this email tracking thing, which can help you, track. At least you will get an idea of what all professors have actually opened your mail, so that if you're applying to this huge pool of professors, you can follow up easily with whatever professors have been opening up your mail. And yeah, and like send the mails at early morning their time, so that it's the first thing that pops up when they're opening their um, mailbox. And also, like Mansi mentioned, that you can actually suggest something that can be done in a different research direction depending on their own research. So I was not that smart. I'm still not that smart. So the only thing that I did was I just suggested that I have already worked on this and this field, and you have worked on this and this field. So I think that combining these both can, yeah, exactly. So I want to explore the options of including this and this, or combining these both, or working on such a problem which uses these both. So even that, shows that at least you have read through his profile, and you know what he's working on. So you cannot just say that you want to combine apple and oranges, right? So you have to at least read through the profiles to actually come up with this, even if you're not sure. So many students say that they don't, a research idea cannot click like in a moment. So that's fine. It is perfectly okay. You can just say that you have worked on this and this, and you find their profile to be somewhat aligned to what you've worked with, and you want to explore in that direction. So yeah, and as everyone mentioned, I guess we have to follow a proper structure in cold emailing too. Like the first 2 lines I would say should be a compelling summary of what you are presenting in the next, 2 paras, and you can directly say that you are at this and this university, and you're interested in this and this subjects, and I usually mention like my name is Kashvi and I am a this semester student at this Delhi Technology with a CGPA of this, which basically, so I had a sell, as they mentioned, you have to sell yourself. So I had a selling point of CGPA. Even if professors don't really, bother that much with CGPA, your CGPA can actually show that you're dedicated towards that particular subject, because I had most of my coursework in math and I was applying to math positions. So that means that I understand most of it and I was able to, score decently. So I mentioned that in the first very line. So that means that if say I had like 6 CGPA, probably the professor would not have read further, and probably I would not have highlighted that. But because I had the option to highlight that, I used it in the first line, and I just said that I am interested in this subfield. And then my second paragraph usually comprised of what I do and why do I think that I am a good fit for whatever I'm applying to. So I can explain my projects and I can explain whatever things I've done, or a few, highlighted achievements, this scholarship or that scholarship. And then the last para would be basically their profile, as in why you think that they are a good fit for yours. So it always works 2 ways. Never think that you are only at the receiving end. Many professors, many researchers around the world are looking for good students around the world, right? So you are also at providing something to them. So also mention properly that whatever you are looking for in a project, or whatever you're looking for in the profile, and why do you think the professor is a good fit for your work and for your career goals. So I always make sure to actually mention this. I don't know if someone covered this up, but I always make sure to mention why I'm applying for a particular position, because I knew that I had to go for graduate applications. For my scholarships, I mentioned that this would really help me in my graduate application, right? So that means that I'm really planning out everything, and I'm working towards it. In my graduate application, I would say that this program, this degree would help me in my long-term career goals of research, or long-term career goals of industry contribution and all of that. So this is one thing that you can actually mention while mailing professors, that their particular project and collaboration will help you in this way. So which will, suggest that that professor is actually the one that you want to work with for this and this reason. So yeah, I guess.
So those were some great points, ma'am. So Gaki ma'am, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, definitely some really nice points, especially about the time zone. It really, really matters. So my sister, she's in the US doing her master's, and she told me that at her university, professors usually open their mails on Tuesdays and Thursdays between, certain times. So, I got to know that time really matters, but I would like to highlight, 3 to 4 important points. Firstly, when you're writing your mail, if you're applying through any scholarship program, please make sure you write it in bold that I am applying through DART or MyTax or SLBOS, and I will not require funding. Because professors will be, a professor who may not have been willing to offer you an internship had he had to pay for it, would now be willing to offer it to you if he knows that, okay, this internship's funded, I just have to host him or her, right? So make sure that your funding source is very clearly mentioned, because that takes off a lot of burden from their shoulders, that, okay, I don't have to fund this incoming intern, prospective intern. So please make sure you mention your funding. And I also feel that professors are usually not very tech savvy when it comes to updating their websites. And when you go to their website, they'll have a set of 3 or 4 research interests, right? So I'm interested in this, 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 this. And you'll mention something around those lines, this, and you'll send off the mail. But, they necessarily need not be working on all of those at that time. So the best way is to, you may mention some interest which they'd been doing some 10 years back. Okay, so what you should do is go through the list of publications and look at the 10 top most recent publications that they've been working on, because that's most likely the field which they're actively pursuing with their PhDs and postdocs, etc. So make sure you catch on to those, because otherwise they'll be like, this is not even ongoing, so why should I bother, right? So make sure that you do catch the most recent interest, and their websites are really, really outdated sometimes. So you need to, be ahead. And I'm not sure about mail tracking because I've heard of Mail Tracker, I've heard of Streak, and in my own experience, many times my mails go to spam. So I would personally recommend that do not go for mail trackers, because there's a high chance that all of these, they have very strong spam filters, and your mail may just end up in spam. So
and even if you do, I feel you should keep an option of not making that visible, because it looks unprofessional. A lot of suggested to make that part hidden even if you use them. I did not know about the spam part, but I knew about keeping it hidden.
Yeah, so there's an option to actually hide it in every mail. So you have to click that box. Either you can take the paid version, but I just work with the free version, and you can hide it by crossing it out in every mail, and then it just gets sent like a normal mail. If you have that, trademark sort of a thing in your mail, then it might get ended up in a spam folder.
Yeah. So like in general, I was a bit suspicious of my mails ending up. And also I've heard this from my friends, but I don't know how much, how true this is. If your email ID, your institute email ID has digits, like my email ID is full of digits, which is my ID, but many of you may have your names or initials in them. So my friends told me that sometimes these spam filters look at these digit email IDs and send them to spam. Okay, so make sure you, I don't know how true this is, because a university ending makes it look really good that you're a legit student. So I really don't know about this. It's controversial, but I would still suggest, having a personal email ID with some letters in the username, and have a proper signature at the end with your institute logo, your year, and your name. But this I've heard, but I really don't know about how true this is. And lastly, in case, so you can note this down, it might be of help to you in the future. So for example, you've mailed 100 profs and you don't have any replies. Okay, so then don't really focus on being directed towards that field of interest. Just spam in a very nice way, polite way, to all the profs. Why? Because you never know, that prof might just reply to you. So for me, I had received a reply from a prof saying, I see that you have these interests, but I don't work on them. Would you rather be interested in exploring this? And then we had an interview, and then he even offered it to me. So if like beyond 50 or 100 mails, if you're not getting any replies, then just don't forget it. Just spam everyone. Obviously intelligently spam, not like BCC, but you should really not close your mind at that time, because profs may just reply to you sometime. And at the end, as I said, if you tell them, your mail should come out as a set of very short paragraphs with some bolded words, and it should be, you can always end your mail with like, let me know if scheduling a call would be more convenient with you, because that's just way more easier for them. So as one of the panelists said, that make it look like you want to interview with them, you want to talk to them, and interact with them, rather than just letting, because then they'll be like, I don't care. And I'm not sure of how foolproof it is to reach out to their PhDs and then ask them, because I didn't do that. But if you have lots of time, then you may even consider doing that. I don't know how successful.
I think you can do that for your dream professors, like if you want to ban those, then you can take the extra step of mailing the PhD students under them.
Yeah, probably the first.
Actually, I didn't do it personally, but a senior suggested, so I was like, I'll throw this here.
Because PhD students are way more, they're very enthusiastic and about students, and they might just reply to you. So,